All right, everybody, good afternoon and welcome on back. Closing out our week, rather, this Friday afternoon, shortly after 2:30 p.m. Eastern time, guys. Let's get a quick sound check just to begin, or at least for those of us still with us here in the Cyber Group Trading Room. Jose, Bonnie, Ken, great to see you all. Greg, loud and clear as well. Ron, great to see you. All right, we got a few of us here. Perfect. I sound kind of surprised, at least, because things have been pretty slow. This is as much of a summer day as we'll get, at least, right? You know, it's Friday going into the weekend. Fausto mentioned this earlier, at least in the morning. You know, it's freaking gorgeous out here, at least on the East Coast. You know, I was talking to a couple of our students, one in Massachusetts, one in Boston, and at least, and one down in South Carolina. I mean, it's just gorgeous everywhere. So, you know, if I say this bluntly, guys, and it's truthful, you know, I made my day's pay today. If I wasn't getting paid to be here, I'd be out there enjoying life. I'd be out there outside, at least, just doing anything. Bonnie says it's beautiful in Chicago too, right? So with that said, I mean, let's try and find a runner going into this afternoon. The benefit, or I should say the bright side of today, of this afternoon, well, at least while it's slow out, the Dow has been pushing up beautifully, right? And the S&P as well. So, you know, we've had a fantastic day, at least market-wise. You know, we ended up seeing the Dow pretty much move up 500 points from yesterday's low, from 27.5 up to 28 flat right now. So hopefully we see that continue at least. And with that said, you know, we have the CODX trade up on the screen right now. You know, it ended up breaking a new high. Hopefully this could be one of the runners that I was mentioning going into this afternoon. You know, I'll come back to it at least. It's not really up a whole lot percent-wise. The volume's kind of dying off a bit. So just broke a new high. Maybe I'll come back to this at the end. Really what we'll do, you know, I'd like to recap the stocks that we ended up trading from earlier today. You know, we'll start off at number 2, not number 1, number 2. Up 36%. Ended up making a second little move up, but obviously just before, we saw this earlier, just completely crash once again, the Pixie trade. So a few of us that messaged me inside the trading room earlier today, you guys were asking what I was following, and this certainly was not one of them. I mean, you know, hey, this was a stock on our pre-market list. It was a stock on our morning watch list, you know, with as much as, or with as little as we had on the gainer side. This rightfully so made the cut on the CTU morning list. I personally thought this would be a pump and dump. Well, I was right. But this ended up moving a lot higher than I thought it was going to move up to. So, you know, with that in mind, let's go over this briefly to begin. The Pixie trade broke out as soon as the market opened up. It was pushing up leading into the open, but then it dumped off and then shot back up. I will say, if anything, this stock maintained a really smooth trend off its lows. So if you were looking for more of a breakout trade and just to see easy continuation, it was tough to find. Eventually, this ended up doing so. Once it broke over 5 and held over it, it ended up accelerating up a little bit faster. So I know a bunch of us did really well on this trade. I ended up joining the party late myself, and I say that in reference to the initial morning run. I did not take part in the second move up. So, you know, once a stock makes a big move up and then pretty much dies off, and when I say die off, I mean like really crashing back down, the volume dies off with it, the stock kind of pulls back sharply. Normally, we'll see this stock end up, you know, pulling back that much further into the afternoon. Seeing the stock make a second wind, I mean, that surprised me. But for a few of us that took profits on this trade, I mentioned to you. And, you know, it ended up pushing up a little bit higher still from where I said, but I said it was going to pull back down at some point, guys. I wouldn't expect this to break higher from where it had pulled back down from. So, you know, it ended up running from 450 to high of the day 622, dropped smoothly from 622 all the way down, effectively down towards like the low of the day 411, all the way back up again. It's tough to see this range continue higher into the afternoon. So, you know, I would say, if anything, I would expect this only to like fizzle out and crash at this point. All right, guys. So Pixie, hey, it ended up doing a lot better than I personally thought it would. And, you know, for those of you that were following this, at least once the market opened up, you guys ended up catching this early on at least. So congratulations to those of you guys that did so. I'll tell you, though, aside from this Pixie trade, you know, we did all right. I think, where was it? The Kirkland stock, KIRK, number 11 still. It's still kind of holding strong near the highs to a degree. Yet another pop on this trade. I mean, this has been like truly phenomenal over the last like almost month flat at this point. You know, look at the daily chart from July all the way until right now, and then we're talking, you know, mid to late August at this point. Only like a handful of red days, and on those red days, the stock ends up breaking out a little bit more the following day after. So, you know, I don't know what's going on with this Kirk stock here, guys. At this point, it's just literally a parabolic move on the daily chart. You would figure for what goes up is going to come back down. I mean, we see this. We've seen this just recently over this past week. PEIX. Look at it today. shortable, still dropping off right now to a good degree. We'll come back to this. I wouldn't mind giving this a second look even, but look at the daily chart. For as much as this went up, when is this going to pull back? I was looking at that more actually on Wednesday and it dropped off, and then again today. And then also another one, Plug, PLUG, the last week and a half, this stock's been pushing up and up and up and up. And we ended up seeing the stock drop off quite a bit today, even before the bigger drop today, going into the early afternoon. News came out, I think it was like Citron Research is short on this trade at least. Ron saying Kodak pump, halt, and dump as well. Yeah, but that's to be expected. This is like the easiest call out of all time, Ron, seeing this make a pump and dump. The writing's on the wall on this trade, just even back from late July. But yeah, otherwise, just to see a stock day over day over day over day, right? That's what we were kind of talking about just before with Kirkland. This is pretty rare. I mean, to see this just over and over, up and up and up, like when is it really going to actually drop off? So I'm not going to say that's going to happen today. I mean, just for the range alone on the daily chart, keep it in mind going forward for the next week and a half, 2 weeks, as we have been. For this afternoon, I wouldn't mind putting this on our list. Trading in a tighter range right now, but, and I will say there is a bit of a spread, about an 8-cent spread right now. All right, you know what? How about this? I'll come back to it. I wouldn't mind adding this at the end, at least, just given the range it's made today. Hopefully, it ends up providing one more pop. Just to say, with that in mind, with this moving up as much as it has been across the daily chart, you figure at some point this thing's going to crash and burn. So, hopefully, it runs up higher today, but I wouldn't be surprised if that crash and burn comes next week. All right, so what we'll do, you see MTB climbing up the gainer side as well. Leo set that here in the chat board. We'll go from top to bottom now at this point. HJLI, real cheapy here. Popped shortly after the open. We weren't there to call it out or trade it even. Ended up making really one of the bigger moves across the day. We normally don't focus on stocks priced below $1, but this one ended up making a fantastic move. I would say the same with this as I did just before. For a stock to make a second big move up higher into the afternoon after it dumped off already once, I wouldn't expect it. Another one that's been climbing up the gainers list here, at least, guys, today, HARP, H-A-R-P. We were more so calling this one, though, out going into 12 o'clock and after, once it ended up kind of making that final push up towards 16. More notably than anything, the stock is shortable. At least not hard to borrow for those of us with TradeStation. Right now, wacky spread, wacky order book, looking at just seeing these smaller orders across the board on the bid and the ask. So not to say this is easy. I mean, definitely a more volatile, chaotic stock. But hey, for right now, I mean, this one, just given the volatility and all of that I had said alone, just we'll put this on our list here for that reason. All right, ended up actually just making the pop over 15. Big volume coming in off the break from 15, and actually the push over what appears to be 1480 on the chart. Then the volume spike from the break from 15. So, if anything, look to see if this can make a new pop sooner than later here. Otherwise, it might just dump back down. A little false breakout, perhaps. All right. Now we'll kind of just skim through here, folks. VEL is shortable. Kind of made a weak little pop earlier, dumped back down. This AEYE near the high of the day, but spread's huge on that, so we're going to pass. BK, again, not really much to write home about here, folks. Leo is right with the MTP. It is kind of inching off support. So given the last like 15 to 30 minutes, the stock's been inching up about 12, 15 cents. It seems like more of a level one trade. So, I don't know how much this will net you like cent per share wise, but if anything, hopefully this ends up making a nice little push at this point going into the afternoon. Stock ended up making a pump and dump for us going back into this week, or maybe this was even at the end of last week, the 14th. Yeah, the 14th. So pretty much this time last week, right? Friday. Pump and dump, ended up making a second little move up, but then from there it's dropped off. Today, obviously another big move up early in the pre-market, gapped up, but then died off. So, getting a little squeeze here. I'm not going to guarantee, a huge move off this level at this point, but you know what? I mean, it's one that we're kind of familiar with. We have nothing really else to follow so far this afternoon. So we'll put this on there, the MTP. Jan, same thing. JAN. I mean, huge spread on this throughout the day. Ended up popping a little bit after the market opened up, a little bit right around 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock there. All right, we'll keep it pushing. Not a whole lot, guys, out there, really. I mean, any familiar names, I'm just going to jump to, like Blue Apron. Oh, oops, I guess my scan just kind of refreshed on me. This is not Blue Apron. Blue Apron, we'll take a look. APRN. So at least this is running up pretty nicely. I called this out a little bit earlier in the afternoon. I took my eyes off it for a bit. I think that was right around 850 at the time. So ended up making a nice big pop and then push over 9 from there, pulling back down now. So hopefully strong resistance can create strong support from this point. But given the range and recent volume, definitely Blue Apron. At least this one's, more volatile, more active stock at this point in the day. All right, let me zoom out on my 5-minute chart here for this MOGU really quick. Ended up seeing the stock back the other day, right? Ended up making kind of a pop, not a pump and dump all the way back down, but from the highs pulled back pretty sharply. Today, kind of holding strong near the highs of the day, right around 315. We'll come back to it maybe. I tell you, this really is like the dog days of summer. Not to like sound like pessimistic, as if there's like nothing out there to trade, but so far it doesn't look too good. So, hopefully around 3:30, as we typically know, once the HFTs come in, especially going into the end of the week, we might happen to see a final pop going into the final 30 minutes. Not a whole lot out there, at least on the gainer side. Yeah, Mark, M-A-R-K, familiar name. At least we'll check this one out. RKT. Oh, yeah. We'll check out Rocket. Rocket's been pretty volatile. This is not Rocket. I guess my scanner's resetting once again. All right, we got two actually. We'll go to Rocket, then we'll go to GameStop, GME. GameStop ended up making a nice pop earlier, but then I thought it dumped back down. RKT ended up making a nice push to break an all-time high, broke over the all-time high set. Maybe this was like 2.5 weeks ago, 2685. Very short-lived all-time high. Moved up to 2720, slammed right back down. And for what it's worth, just at this point, tight range, not really much doing there. Definitely great stock to keep in mind going forward, as we've been saying, but at least going into this afternoon, not much out there. All right, GameStop, we'll hop over to the losers list and we'll see what else is out there. The market's pushing up at the highs right now in the S&P. Is the S&P officially breaking all-time high yet? Check out the SPY at least, ETF. SPY, SPY high back from Wednesday, 339.61. SPY high of the day today, 339.39. Not yet, Glenn says. We're getting there, though, Glenn. So, with that in mind, I bring this up because, I mean, if the markets are pushing up at the highs, I'm not really expecting a whole lot on this loser side, right? Bunch of crap hard to borrow to begin. Givo dumping off still. Mara dumping off also. So Bitcoin's been dropping off quite a bit today. I had said that earlier this morning, and going into this afternoon, I was looking for a little bit of a run back up, but obviously I was wrong. No real buying opportunity on Mara. It ended up breaking below the 280 support I was watching. Never ended up moving back through it. So ended up just continuing to dump off here. Bitcoin's been diving off all day. All of the other altcoins too. Mara, and then also we have Riot. I thought Riot was holding a little bit stronger than Mara, but it doesn't even matter at this point. I mean, just not really good trades to watch right now going into this afternoon. There's our PEIX. So, we were saying PEIX was a stock from the last week and a half, 2 weeks, so forth, nonstop runs, or at least, whenever it's had a red day, it's quickly moved back up. So the last 2 days, 3 days, we've been following this more on the short side just for that speculation. And obviously today, and especially going into 1 o'clock, it ended up really crashing. I feel like at this point, I feel like for as much of a move as this stock made, it's just going to be exhausted, as it's just been pretty flat here at this point. So I'll pass. PDD off earnings. All right. So a couple of these we were watching briefly going into yesterday's post market. We had our eyes on Foot Locker and PDD. So let's look at Foot Locker quickly. Dropped off after the open, but not really doing much at all right now. And talk about a waste of time there, at least after the morning drop. But PDD, though, pretty expensive. So if you don't tend to trade the expensive stocks, then maybe don't focus on this as much. But otherwise, I mean, this is really one of the very few stocks that seem to be setting itself up for a decent move this afternoon. All right. So, PDD pulling back down towards support, 12,800 share order on the bid at 84.50. You see that on the right-hand side, the trade station matrix there in blue. Oh, check out Blink. Blink holding over 7, but yeah, not really much going on there. I will tell you guys, though, there is one stock that I've been following today. One stock I'm still in. It's also doing absolutely nothing. SRNE. I'm currently in the trade right now from 997 on the long. Just ended up pulling back down towards that 10 level. I was looking for that actually a couple of days ago and just never really made the move. So here we are right now. I'm going to hold on into the close. If it ends up breaking under 10, I'll just jump out. At this point, it's kind of like home run or bust. Obviously, if it's 359 and this thing's at just doing nothing here at 1008, I'll just pull the trigger and take my 10-cent profit. So hopefully this ends up squeezing up for us, given the drop off this entire week. I was waiting for this move. I'm not going to put this on our list. It's not really making that type of run up just yet. I mean, the volume really dropped off quite a bit from 12:30. So I'm hopeful, but just because I'm in it doesn't mean that we're just going to focus on it, put it on the main list. All right. We said that the other day as well about UBX, and that ended up just being a bust, right? So look at UBX even. Actually, hell, right now UBX might even be worthwhile for this afternoon. Just the fact that it's still pulling back and shortable. The stock is breaking all-time lows, or it was just as of this week and yesterday. So I'd say this might even be more of an opportunity than anything else. I'm not going to put this on the list just yet, but you know what I mean at this point. So we were looking for a squeeze up, a dead cat bounce at some point on this trade. We haven't had it. All right, guys, if there's anything else up, down, left, right, 10% or more, just let me know here in the chat board. Got my Benzinga Pro right now, at least. The market's pushing up. I mean, we will take a look perhaps on the airlines, cruise lines, casinos, etc. We weren't really looking at them much earlier. So, yeah, like AAL is just doing nothing. Super flat. In fact, like the airlines are pushing lower. UAL is at the low of the day. This might be worthwhile to put on our list. NCLH, I mean, it's kind of pulling back a bit, but not really going much of a direction. That UAL does look pretty interesting. Let's take a look at the airline ETF Jets. It's at the lows, so reflective upon UAL's move. Check out Kirkland at the end here. It's kind of pulling back. This might end up making the down move here. Check out CODX. We were looking at that going into the meeting, but not really much to talk about aside from the it's just at the highs. The volume kind of stinks on this trade. WKHS, INO. I'm just kind of flipping through here, folks. That's it. Not much else to it. Just quickly scrolling through my Benzinga Pro now at this point. I got maybe a couple more, like 2. That's it. HCAC. We'll take a look at this one up. What is this? 0.38%. I mean, sometimes I guess it doesn't really give you the best calls. Just this alerted me for a new high of the day, but this one's not really worth it. Last one we'll check out and we'll finish up from here. AUPH. This one's kind of familiar name, at least for myself. It's pushing up a bit. Tight spreads for the meantime, at least. Only trading 614,000 shares at this point in the day. Pretty low volume, even given what it trades normally. Yeah, I'm not going to force it on the list, folks. All right, so for right now, I'm going to put UAL on the list at least. That one's just one that we're pretty familiar with, usually a tradable stock, and that one has good direction, at least for right now, heading into this afternoon. So all in all, we have 4 and 5. That makes it. So, hey, we'll see if there's anything else going into the afternoon, going from 3:30 at least. That's when we'll look to rescan the market a little bit more from here. Aside from that, for all of us tuning in on social media, hey, not every day we're going to have as active of a market day. Thankfully, the Dow, the S&P are both pushing up nicely going into the afternoon. Hopefully, the S&P breaks a new all-time high. but that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to have a very active market, very volatile, list going into this afternoon. So like Fausto said earlier, if you made your money earlier today, I know a few of our students just ended up signing off for the weekend. Hey, close out. Be our guest. I mean, that's the whole purpose here. That's what we're looking to do. We're not trying to, watch the stocks move all day. We're not trying to be at our computer desk all day. All right. So, hey, if you hit your day's pay, if you don't want to force anything out there, take off. That's it. All right, guys. But hey, just like I said before, I'm getting paid to be here, so I will stay here going into the close. I will look to keep scanning, seeing if there's anything else out there going into this afternoon. Aside from that, for all of us on social media, if you'd like to learn more about Cyber Trading University, make sure that you guys like, subscribe, notify on our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/cybertradingu. Aside from that, feel more than free to join us right here inside this trading room. And for all of our students here, well, of course, myself and perhaps Fausto will be taking us going into the end of the day here. All right, folks, take care.